Welcome back to another episode of Silent Pals Go to the Movies. This is another Throwback Thursday review, and I'm here with my friend Touly. Say hi, Touly.
Hi, everyone.
And today we're going to be talking about Field of Dreams. And just a fair warning, there's going to be spoilers up ahead, so you've been warned. An Iowa farmer begins to hear a voice that tells him to build a baseball field on his land. People in his town believe that he's going crazy. They soon find out that there is something to his madness. Okay, first let's go down the cast. We have Kevin Costner, who plays Ray Kinsella. We also have Amy Madigan, who plays Annie Kinsella, his wife. We have Ray Liotta, who plays Shoeless Joe Jackson. We have James Earl Jones, who plays Terrence Mann, an old author. We have Burt Lancaster, who plays Dr. Archibald Moonlight Graham. And we have Frank Whaley, who plays the young Archie Graham. We also have Dwyer Brown, who plays John Kinsella, Ray's father. And just an Easter egg, we have Ben Affleck and Matt Damon in the movie, but they're uncredited. They actually appear as fans during the Fenway Park scene. And now let's get into the details about this movie. This movie is based off a book by J.W. Kinsella, and some of the characters are based on real people. For example, the scene where James Earl Jones interviews townspeople regarding Archibald Graham. Those people that we see being interviewed are real people who knew Archibald Graham, and the stories they share are the real stories about his life. Also, the field is still up to this day. If you want to visit it, you can find it on the internet. You can even find it on Google Maps. You can visit it for free and you go onto the field and enjoy a day of baseball. Well, let's get this review started. When I first saw this movie as a kid, it was just me thinking that it was about baseball, and that was it. But now, as I see it again, this movie has a different meaning, and I can see it two ways. One is about accepting people who have passed away, but still having their memories alive in a certain way. The second is about the 1919 Chicago White Sox team and the World Series game that they infamously threw. These are the meanings behind this movie. So this movie, to me, seems like it's layered to a certain degree with also issues that go beyond that of the movie and the characters themselves. And that is expected for movies that are based on books. Also, the scenes are very iconic and they still hold up to this day. You know, they go from Iowa with the stadium, which is still there. They go to Fenway Park, which is still there. And most of these places they visit in one way or another made infamously by this movie. So in a sense, you can actually take a road trip as they did throughout the US and visit these places. So the whole message of the movie has not changed over the years, but it's just gotten deeper for me. I can feel that this movie would bring satisfaction, joy, or basically bring someone to accept something when they have recently lost a significant other. And basically that means bringing closure to themselves by watching this movie, saying they're gone, but they're not gone. I believe that this is a movie that does touch upon people's emotions. You lost a relative or you lost a family member or a friend, but you have your memories. As this movie has the reference for the baseball field, you in life, you have your memories about this person who's long gone, but at the same time, they're not gone, if that makes sense. As long as their memories there, they're there with you forever. Now, let's go on to the cons about this movie. The movie moved along in a way that made it hard for me to understand Ray's motives for doing the things that he did. Also, Annie, she could have tried to sell the farm behind his back, as the voice of I know better, but they opted to instead make it about people seeing players at the right time. For example, Mark, he didn't believe them that they wanted the field. He was trying to convince them that they should sell and this and that because he's like, you guys are crazy. And all of a sudden, he starts seeing the baseball players and then he just like, you can't sell the farm. And I'm like, okay, that's kind of a really quick flip around, Also, the ending, I wanted to see something more. Maybe at the end, see a customer walk up to Ray and say, hey, I came to see this. I don't know why, but I'm here, and hand him over the money. And then as he sits down, maybe it's an older gentleman, as he sits down in the bleachers, he transforms into a younger kid or a younger version of himself watching the game. I mean, these are other things, but I believe that some of these might be in the book versus the movie since it's based on the book, but I would have enjoyed that instead of that panning shot of the long line of cars coming in to just watch a baseball field. I really wanted to see somebody relive their early years. So with that, I'm going to throw it back to Touly and see how he saw this movie.
I saw this film as a feel-good story revolving around our main character Ray, who grew up struggling to develop a healthy relationship with his dad after his mom passed away. And it eventually led him to a lifestyle where it was devoid of his father, and this ultimately became his struggle that he was trying to overcome. And at the end of the film, you saw that rekindle relationship, or at least for a brief moment, of him getting that closure that he was seeking with his father. It does have that supernatural feel to it. I mean, as the name sort of implied, Field of Dreams, these spirits or ghosts, as even the daughter of Ray have alluded to, asking if these people were ghosts or not. It has this very supernatural feel to it, but I didn't think the film played too much on that idea. It was more to what Sal mentioned that made it more realistic or feel more real in terms of remembering those that you've lost, or trying to cope with something that would make you feel ultimately satisfied with where you're currently at this juncture of your life. In terms of the struggles that they presented in this film, I never felt like the family was in danger, whether it came to them losing their farm because Ray was too focused on turning parts of his land to a baseball field, and him traveling to commit to all these events that would ultimately lead him to where he got to at the end of the film. So I thought, despite them presenting the sort of struggles that the family would have encountered, they didn't play that to the degree where it would have been more convincing otherwise to me. I mean, it was there to sort of just push the movie along and give you a sense as an audience that there are things that are resisting the progress of our characters here. But in terms of whether or not these things really felt as a threat, I didn't really feel it. Again, it just had that feel-good story that you knew that it ultimately something good was going to happen and nothing was going to prevent Ray from achieving what he was trying to achieve. So again, I thought the film was good, and for me personally, I enjoyed the film more for its cultural influence, not just the film industry, but in different areas of entertainment that have taken parts of this film as references. Believe it or not, my first introduction to this film, to me, which really boils down to two iconic lines that even I still use to today. And one of them actually was first introduced to me when I was still a child, growing up watching a cartoon series back in the 90s known as Tiny Toons. And in one of the episodes, there was this line where they were trying to build this theater. I forget the reason behind it, like why this theater was trying to be built or whatever. But one of the characters, or that ghostly spirit that was whispering to Ray in this film, well, there was something like that in that episode too. But instead of saying, if you build it, he will come, in this cartoon episode, they actually uttered the line, if you build it, they will watch. So that was actually my first introduction to something that came from Field of Dreams. I was unaware at the time that it came from this film, but this was actually one of the few things that actually made me appreciate the film that much more when I came to realize that, hey, this was something that came from this film. And of course, the other line, which I find myself even using in everyday language, and whenever somebody asks, is this heaven? And then, of course, I just do the Ray line and say, no, this is Iowa. So again, in terms of culture influence, I feel like the film stands really high in those regards. And just for those alone, I put this film on quite a mantle in terms of its influence on culture, film industry. Still stands pretty strong in today's time.
I totally agree with you on those 2 points. I do remember that episode of Tiny Toons. It was, I think it was Bugs Bunny whispering the words, if you build it, they will watch. And those are the really good examples of how iconic this movie is. Those quotes, you don't have to watch the movie, but you can quote it and people will say, yeah, it's from that, even without watching the movie. So, I mean, for that reference, it still holds up. I enjoyed it when I watched it back then, and I still enjoy it, but there is some minor issues of the movie. I mean, you touched upon it. Some things that we would have wanted to see more of, them really struggling to lose the farm, and they were, just getting by, but then Ray would still keep going. But, stuff like that. But again, I always say maybe that is in the book. I haven't read the book, so I can't judge it. One thing is making a book and then directly copying line by line to a movie. Some people don't like that. Some people like it, but others don't. So with that, I'm going to ask Touly for his final grade of the movie.
I would say I thought the film was good. I would give it a 7 out of 10. And I would definitely recommend it to anybody who hasn't seen it to just watch it so that you could sort of get a glimpse as to where, if you appreciate the cultural impact this film has had on the entertainment industry. Yeah, definitely give this film a watch, I would say.
I'm going to do the same thing as Touly. I would recommend it to people just, so you can see the cultural impact this movie has had in the movie industry. But also if you have lost somebody significant in your life or something and you need closure, go ahead and watch this movie. It's a happy feel movie. You know, you'll feel good about yourself at the end of the movie. So my grade is a 7 out of 10 for this movie. So that does it for this review of Field of Dreams. Please join us next time when we review Batman from 1989.
Now you want to get nuts? Come on, let's get nuts.
Tell me something, my friend. You ever dance with the devil in the pale moonlight?
Funny enough that you brought up the Batman film, because I will be at Comic-Con this year, and based on some of the things that I've heard online, it appears that DC is going to have a very big year at this event. Relative to Marvel. So I can't wait to see what DC has in store for all attendees there. And if you guys would actually like an update of my experience there, feel free to tune in to my Twitch channel at twitch.tv/ToulyVision. I'll be going over sort of stuff that I experienced and saw, and probably show off some of the swag that I was able to purchase there. So yeah.
That sounds like a good idea. I'm going to be also tuning in to watch. So if you guys want to come along and chat alongside while we're watching, join us. Click like and subscribe below. And remember, keep watching movies.